In the spring of 2024, I received an email that not only changed the trajectory of my undergraduate degree, but also transformed the way I perceived people, ideas, and community. It would be flattering to assume that the Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies would send me an email personally. No, he did not. That email was sent out to thousands of students. It was about an opportunity to start a student project for an international competition called the Heart Hackathon. A year-long competition where students designed electromechanical devices that could replace a failing human heart. Sounds cool, right? How many of you would have replied to that email if you had received it? Come on, raise your hands. Now imagine my surprise when I walked into the very first meeting we ever had to see only 10 students. By the next meeting, there were only 5 of us. In hindsight, it kind of makes sense, because that email, in my opinion, was not an invitation. It was rather a question that asked, is there anyone who's willing to try something new that might not work at all? There were no big promises, no guarantee of funding or lab space, and no certainty that we would even make it to the competition. I knew very little about the human heart, and even less about an engineered one at that time. What I did know is that it is human nature to be terrified of uncertainty. And knowing that, I made a choice, and all 5 of us made a choice. We took on the challenge of creating Canada's first student team designing a total artificial heart. And that choice became Alberta Heart. A total artificial heart, or a TAH, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a machine that replicates the function of your heart. Right now, if your heart fails beyond repair, the best option is to get a transplant from another human being. But donor hearts are scarce in supply. And even when you get a transplant, patients face a lifetime of risk and medication. A total artificial heart, a TAH, is a vision of a different future. A future where you don't have to wait for the right donor at the right time. Instead, there's a reliable engineered device that buys you more time. Time to spend with your loved ones, time to complete a degree, time to simply have more ordinary days. As students, this idea was both terrifying and exciting at the same time, because we were not seasoned engineers with years of experience. We did not have funding, and we did not have lab space. And we definitely did not have a detailed plan to design a heart. So there we were, 5 students, almost no experience, and a goal that still sounds like science fiction. The first thing that we figured out was that if we wanted to create a successful student organization, a community of vibrant innovators, then we needed to start with a strong and resilient foundation. So we built Alberta Heart with this core value: curiosity over credentials. To us, having initiative mattered way more than having a perfect background. We had students from engineering, science, medicine, business, marketing, and arts, who all became puzzle pieces that fit perfectly into our interdisciplinary picture. We got our professors and faculty involved, and we even found industry partners. They all formed this dynamic advisory team that we could rely on. This foundation set us up perfectly to create a space, to create a community where students felt safe to explore ideas. This allowed us to pursue bold ideas, which was evident in our first design. By December of 2024, we had grown from 5 to more than 40 students and were working actively on our first design concept, a heart made from electro-smart materials. The fundamental principle was very simple. We were going to use materials that changed their shape when electricity was passed through them to create chambers that would replicate chambers in our heart. It was an elegant idea on paper. It looked clever, and it let us dream big. We fell in love with it the way teams fall in love with their first ideas, completely and a little bit blindly. As we devoted our efforts to turn this idea into a tangible design, we stayed late in empty classrooms. We taught ourselves concepts that we didn't fully understand. And we got used to walking into a room and saying, hey, I have no idea how to do this yet, and staying in that same room until we figured it out together. The foundation of the community that we were building at Alberta Heart was taking shape right in front of our eyes. And then things went south. In April, our research team discovered that our idea, that our design would not be feasible. And this was not a small flaw that we could fix by changing a design parameter. We discovered that if we kept on pursuing this idea, we would get nowhere near a working prototype. And the timing could not have been worse. Since it was the beginning of the spring and summer semester, most of our team was scattered all across the country for work terms and summer jobs. What used to be 40 students in a classroom was now just a handful of chats and messages in a chat room. Membership had dropped, energy had dropped, and the very foundation that we had spent almost a year to build was on the brink of collapse. It was devastating. Imagine working on something for nearly a year only to realize that it's just not going to work. This is Matea. She is our pumping mechanism lead, which means she was leading the design of our concept at that time. I remember her telling me how incredibly demoralizing it was to realize that a design is fundamentally flawed and that any attempts to salvage it are just futile. We had just experienced failure. Who here has never experienced failure or setback in their life? Exactly. Failure is a part of life. That's something we all know. But I'm not going to pretend that it's not demoralizing. It was devastating. When we had our meetings, they were filled with doubt, with hesitation, with confusion. Uncertainty was just in the air. You could just sense it when you walked into a room. It was devastating. But there's something we also realized as we went on, that we started doubting ourselves. We started saying things like, I don't think we're capable of doing this. I don't think we're qualified. We're just students. And at the end of the day, we were just students. We were trying to work out this idea so much and getting it right the first time that we had forgotten that failure was a privilege that we could actually afford. Here's the thing about being a student group at a university. We're not here to chase revenues or generate profits. We're not even here for grades, because this project is not on our transcripts. We're just here to make mistakes and learn from them. We're here to experiment. We're here to try something wildly ambitious, like designing a heart, knowing that even if this device never makes it to a patient, the experience of designing it alone will create massive value in a student's life. And that is a privilege. It's a privilege to experiment. It's a privilege to fail again and again. It's a privilege to regenerate ideas. With this newfound wisdom, we went back to the drawing board and came up with a brand new design. This time, we were even able to prototype it and send it to the competition. Then in June of 2025, I received another email. This one was a bit different from the one that I received in the beginning. Alberta Heart had made it to the finals of the International Heart Hackathon competition. We were ecstatic, particularly because we were able to do it in our first year, and we were able to do it despite making significant changes to our design. A project that started with 5 students was now representing Canada at a global stage. It was extraordinary, not only for us, but for every person who was a part of it, and for every person who believed in us. But here's what I want you to understand about how we got there. It's not just the technical work. It wasn't just the competition deadline that we had clawed our way into. It was the people. It was the community, grounded in the foundation that we had built. This community was grounded in this foundation because the thing that kept us going, even when we had the setback, was not the technical work. It was the social gatherings that we organized. We went out together outside of any technical agenda, just as people who were building something together and wanted to know each other. We celebrated small wins, and more importantly, we understood that the only thing that was holding our group together was not just the project, but the relationships, formed in borrowed classrooms and shared meals that had nothing to do with designing a heart. That community is still at the center of Alberta Heart's culture today. Let me give you an example. This is Erica. When she first joined Alberta Heart, she was a stereotypical engineering student. Quiet, soft-spoken, and only focused on the technical part. As she got involved with the community, she started taking steps to get more and more involved. She found a sense of belonging. In less than a year, she was taking leadership of design decisions and calculations, and she even led our delegation in Vienna for the finals. Today, she's the project lead, spearheading a group of more than 40 passionate students who are working tirelessly to build a heart. What stories like these make me realize is that the real heart that we had been building is actually made of people. It's made of people who took a chance and joined this project. It's made of people who stayed late to help someone out with a calculation. It's made of students who chose curiosity over credentials. The world that we live in today is very fond of putting people in a box, at telling them what they are not ready for, at making opportunity feel like something you earn only after you've proven that you deserve it. But is that really true? Because the most meaningful things that I witnessed at Alberta Heart did not happen because someone was ready. They happened because someone showed up anyway. And then because there was a community that existed that made showing up feel like it was worth it. So if there's one idea that I want you to walk away with today, it's this. It is possible to truly regenerate ideas when we deliberately create the space for them, when we make room for failure, for growth, and for people to take ownership of bold ideas. Because Alberta Heart did not begin with certainty or funding or a perfect plan. It started when 5 students took a chance to create a space and a community where students felt safe to fail, learn, and grow together. Thank you.